Through all this time railing on the teachers union, talking about the dangerous policies of the Washington Education Association, we finally have a mole on the inside. A mole on the inside that's monitoring their every move, recording their every conversation. Legally, I don't really know, and frankly, I don't care. And it's our friend Alicia Perkins with OSD Rescue, who was contacted by a member of the WEA, a very well-placed member of the WEA, who we will not name to protect their anonymity so they can continue to gather information for us. But Alicia had this source who provided her with video of a WEA leadership membership meeting, a Zoom meeting that happened last week, where they were talking about the two Let's Go Washington initiatives. Of course, those two initiatives are IL 26-001, which is another effort to protect parental rights in Washington state, saying, hey, you can't keep secrets from parents about what's happening with their kids at school, common sense stuff. And the other one, IL 26-638, which is protecting fairness in girls' sports. It's saying, no, girls should not have to compete against biological boys, and we're not going to do any of this anymore. So most of the clips from this meeting, surreptitiously recorded, that we're going to play for you are about the girls' sports issue. But there was this one in particular that talks about the parental rights issue. So, of course, the chief argument here, and one of the reasons this came about, is there were kids who were going to school and they were being convinced they were transgender. Perfectly fine at home, no other issue. They go to school and they wind up with some ideologically driven teacher that is planting it in their brain that they're transgender. And then that secret would be kept from parents. So a parent might have a child that's a boy, goes to school, and they call that child by a different name, by a girl's name, by girl's pronouns, and the teacher and the school counselor and the other students and faculty are forced, and some of them want to, keep this secret from parents, so parents are left completely in the dark. So the initiative on parental rights would upend that and say you can't keep that secret from parents. If a child's coming to school and using a different name, using different pronouns, you have to let the parents know what's happening. But according to one member of the WEA on this meeting, that would be just too burdensome for school nurses.
We can disagree about, the topic of people who are trans and whether or not they deserve rights. We can disagree on that. But we can all agree that this is a crazy amount of workload that's being added to our nurses if they're having to call for anything that they're doing.
Yeah, you got to pick up the phone. Is that really asking so much? That's literally your job. You're the school nurse. Your job is to take care of kids when there's an issue where they need to see the school nurse. And yeah, if that's an issue that parents need to know about under the law, well, you're going to have to pick up the phone and call them. Wow, how difficult is that? All right, getting into the issue of trans athletes. So this is the same individual on this WEA meeting.
As we message, especially in these supportive areas, to remind folks that this is about K-12 sports, like school sports, not Olympic athletes that have been training and specializing since they were 2. This is about public school sports. So making sure that messaging is also very clear, that it's not the professional level sports that you're hearing about on the news that we're talking about. We're talking about middle school volleyball.
So it doesn't matter? And by the way, I guarantee if I asked that individual directly, oh, so you don't want men competing against women in the Olympics? They would still support men competing against women in the Olympics. They're just trying to twist the argument. Oh, these aren't professional athletes. What about Annalie Wilson, who is someone we've had on the show who spoke at our Sunday event? She can very well be a collegiate athlete in track and field. She can get a scholarship in track and field to run. But the last major track meet she participated in at the state level, she got second place to a biological boy. And if you're a recruiter and you're just looking and you don't know, it doesn't say man or woman. It doesn't say that Annalie lost to a man. For all they know, they're looking at the numbers and Annalie lost to a girl who is just faster than her. And that's just not true. And by the way, how do you think people get to the freaking Olympics? They start practicing and committing very early in life when they're kids. Some of them are naturally gifted. Some of them put a lot of time in. Yes, at the elementary level, at the junior high level, at the high school level, that propels them into collegiate sports, and it propels them into potentially professional sports. You look at any professional basketball player, volleyball player, Olympian, and ask when they started competing seriously. And they're probably going to tell you as soon as they were able to walk. So that's just an asinine argument. All right, this also makes no sense to me. So there is an argument that's made on this WEA meeting that trying to keep boys out of girls' sports would somehow be too burdensome for coaches.
Athletic coaches now, are WA members, athletic coaches, or sometimes community members, athletic coaches, are now in charge of something like this, which, is completely outside of the bounds of reasonable. When I've talked to athletic coaches, they're like, we're just here to coach. Like, this is way beyond anything that would be reasonable to expect of coaches. So what we're gonna do now is
it's not the coaches that are doing it, it's healthcare providers.
Yes, and the coaches now would be in charge of tracking all the paperwork. And it goes back to that penalties line where if it just I think that makes a good point, right? Like, these are poorly written, they're confusing, they're unnecessary, and they're harmful. And it's not up to our coaches to be involved in patrolling that paperwork either.
First of all, I guarantee 100% she's never actually talked to a coach. Guarantee she's never had that conversation with a coach. And you're telling me it's more burdensome to not have this situation where boys are playing on girls' teams than it is right now? Where you've got athletes and parents, athletes walking out, sitting out of games, parents demanding to know why a boy is playing on the girls' team, all this drama around the issue? No. This will be far less burdensome for coaches to not have to deal with the drama of having boys on girls' teams. You think they want boys competing against their girls? Of course they don't. So again, they're just making up this, coaches, this is really hard for them. And you're saying it's going to be this extra burden. Wasn't it Chris Reichdahl who said, this is no big deal. We have maybe 8 to 10 trans athletes. Okay, let's take him at his word. I don't believe that. I think there's probably more given the ideological makeup of our schools and what they're forcing on kids. But if it's 8 to 10, then it really can't be that much of a burden for coaches at all. And as somebody interjected and pointed out, this really isn't something coaches should have to deal with, because the idea is to say that when you take your regular physical exam, your doctor has to attest to whether you're a boy or a girl, so you're not going to be on the girls' team to begin with. So really, it's going to be out of the purview of coaches. They're just making shit up. And it shows the sort of mindset. And then there was there's a moderator in this WEA meeting, and she's totally, again, so they're spreading misinformation within their meeting. So it's really no surprise that the WEA members go out and they protest over this, and they spread misinformation on their Facebook pages and misinformation within their community, because the moderator is talking about how, only girls will have to undergo these invasive physical exams to prove their sex.
This is shocking news to every member that I've spoken to, where it talks about every girl over the age of 11. So as most folks know, all student athletes have a physical every other year. And really that's about cardiovascular health, etc. School nurses, feel free to add in the chat if you like. But this would mean that a student would have to prove their genitals are a certain way, their reproductive anatomy. And that is there on page 3. But again, this is for girls only. Starting at age 11, which is shocking, to say the least.
No, it's for people who want to participate in girls' sports. That's the requirement. So yes, it would be for boys who are claiming to be girls. If there is someone claiming to want to play in girls' sports, and you already said it, and I love it, they actually disproved their central argument against this initiative themselves in this meeting. They have to have physicals every other year. It's already required. You already have to have a physical every other year if you're participating in WIAA athletics. And that doctor who gave you that physical last year or this year, they know if you're a boy or a girl. Trust me, you're not fooling the doctor. No one's fooling the doctor. The doctor knows if you're a boy or a girl. All they have to do is attest to it. And this is a lie that's being perpetrated by that Wall Families for Freedom that's against these initiatives where they're saying only girls by law will be subjected to invasive physical exams. So set aside that they're already getting these exams anyway. That's just a fact of life unless you've never taken your child to a doctor. No, it's people who want to participate in girls' sports, because that's how we're going to weed out the boys. That's how we're going to weed out the boys. And, they're not requiring it for people who want to participate in boys' sports, because if a girl wants to participate in boys' sports, there's some avenues where that's allowed. First of all, they don't have a physical advantage, so they're probably not going to play or do very well. But for instance, we have girls here and there who participate in football because there's no girls' team for football. And again, the girls don't have the physical advantage. I watched a high school game not long ago where there was a girl who was the kicker. And it's like, okay, if she can compete at that level with the boys, like, more power to her. But the other way around, it doesn't make any sense because we use our brains and we use common sense. And so they're just, again, making stuff up or fundamentally misunderstanding. And so now we have this mole on the inside of the WEA recording these meetings. And so now we know where all these asinine lies and ideas come from. And then they get pushed out to the rest of the members, pushed out to the internet and the media, and then that's how they take hold. Now, there is this insane lady on this meeting, and we're doing some digging into who this woman is. More on that in a moment. I don't think her background will particularly surprise you, but her name is Jennifer Wallace. She speaks up on this WEA meeting, introduces herself as an expert in this arena of gender and it being a social construct. Let's see what this expert has to say, shall we?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wallace. I wanted to talk a little bit because when I first learned about this, my first thought was that it was just really naive. My background, I have a doctorate in medical and molecular genetics, and I used to study human genetics. I think there is the misunderstanding in the public that there's a scientific consensus on the definition of biological sex. And unless I'm going to breed people and see if they have babies, outside of that, there's not really a consensus on biological sex.
Good God. Good God. She's saying the only real way to find out if you're a man or a woman is to breed and see if you have babies, which, of course, is one of the stupider things I've ever heard. But also some women are women but can't have babies for other reasons and health reasons, etc. So even if you breed them, weirdo, who uses that language? It's like they want to dress like what do you call it? Want to dress, what is the Red Hood from the show? Handmaids, and then they're talking about, we have to breed. That's literally their mindset. They think they're like handmaidens, and these girls are handmaidens because they're going to have to prove that they're girls in order to compete. Wild stuff. And that there's not scientific consensus on what biological sex really means. Really, what scientific journals are you reading? Probably the weird ones out of Washington State. Let's continue to listen to Jennifer Wallace.
Biology is a spectrum, and I think that really gets lost as we try to bin people in these nice bins, and like the majority of people are going to fit in these binary, male or female, but there's a pretty large percentage of the population, 1% to 2%, that are actually intersex. So that's about the same percentage of folks that are redheaded. So intersex people, and a lot of people who are intersex don't know that they're intersex.
Well, they're going to find out.
And so some people may know in childhood, some may find out in adolescence. A lot of people won't know until they have infertility issues as an adult.
Okay. We're not talking about intersex people. Intersex is a real thing. That's never been what this is about. This is about boys who decide, probably under force from an adult and indoctrination, that they want to be a girl. That's always been what this is about. This is not about intersex. That's the excuse that Chris Reichdahl has used, the superintendent of public instruction, over and over. Well, what about intersex people? That's a very different situation that must be treated like a different situation. And they're using that to distract and deflect. One more gem of wisdom from this Jennifer Wallace woman.
You'll have people who are, maybe you think of as biologically female that have higher testosterone levels than some men who are, you would think of as biologically male. You can have, and the whole idea that you can check genitals to confirm sex is silly too.
No, it's not.
There are conditions where you can present anatomically female, but actually be chromosomally male.
Like from surgery.
So there's not like a serum test. Either test. There's not I can eyeball your genitals until what sex you are. I can't even look at your chromosomes necessarily until what sex you are. I'd have to sequence you, and then still it would be kind of as you define it. So sex ends up being really more of a social and philosophical construct than a hard biological construct.
Oh my God.
And I'm always kind of baffled by this legislation that just kind of ignores reality. And it's so much more complicated. So I think you guys all get that, but I think reminding people that the scientific community does not have a consensus on this. So even though there may be some people pushing legislation, that legislation is not based on science, even like trying to identify sex.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for making all of us smarter. That was
No, you're
really,
not.
really appreciate it.
Oh my God. Thank you, doctor. You're making all of us smarter. No, you're making all of them way, way, way dumber. Way dumber. Totally gullible. Saying, I couldn't even sequence your genome and know what your sex is. For the love of God. This is the Washington Education Association. These are the people tasked with teaching your kids, with teaching the next generation. If that isn't a freaking ad for homeschooling, I don't know what is. And it shows you the lengths that they will go to, the truths that they will bend to push their radical gender ideology. What is the Orwell phrase? The party told you to stop believing the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. I posted on Facebook when I woke up this morning, every day is a good day to wake up and choose the truth, regardless of the consequences. And I know that there are people out there, Democrats in positions of power, progressives even, who believe that this is all utter nonsense and it has gone too damn far. It's only going to take a couple of you. It's only going to take a couple of you to put aside whatever cost might come from speaking up, to put aside your personal concerns and to say, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not playing this game anymore. Boys are boys, girls are girls. We're going to be respectful of kids. This isn't an issue about kids. This isn't about hate and discrimination. This is about truth. It's only going to take a couple of you for the dam that's holding back sanity to break. And I pray that you find the ability to do that within yourselves.